May 23rd, 1618, Prague Castle. Two men are hurled from a window, plummeting 70 feet toward certain death. They survive. But Europe will not be so fortunate. What begins as a local uprising will transform into the most catastrophic war the continent has ever seen. Before it ends, 8 million will be dead. Entire regions will be depopulated, and the very fabric of European civilization will be torn apart. This is the story of the 30 Years' War. To understand how Europe descended into this nightmare, we need to go back 100 years. In 1517, Martin Luther nailed his protests to a church door in Germany, and Christianity fractured. The Protestant Reformation split the faith into warring camps. By 1618, the divide has become a chasm. Northern Europe is largely Protestant, the South remains Catholic, and caught between them is the Holy Roman Empire. Now, despite its grand name, the Holy Roman Empire is not really an empire at all. It's a chaotic patchwork of over 300 territories, each with its own ruler, stretching across what will one day become Germany. The French writer Voltaire will later mock it as neither holy, nor Roman, nor an empire. But in 1618, it's a powder keg. Some territories are Protestant, others are Catholic. And overseeing this fragile arrangement is the Holy Roman Emperor Ferdinand II, a Habsburg and a fanatical Catholic who believes it's his divine mission to restore Catholic supremacy. In Bohemia, now part of the modern Czech Republic, Protestant nobles watch Ferdinand's rise with growing alarm. When he begins cancelling their religious freedoms and tearing down their churches, they've had enough. On that May morning in 1618, Protestant rebels storm Prague Castle, seize 2 of Ferdinand's Catholic ministers, and throw them out a window in what becomes known as the defenestration of Prague. The ministers miraculously survived the fall. Catholics claim angels caught them. Protestants say they landed in a dung heap. But the debate over their survival is beside the point. Bohemia is now in open rebellion, and Ferdinand will not forgive this insult. What happens next transforms a local revolt into a continental catastrophe. The Bohemian rebels need allies, so they offer their crown to a Protestant prince, Frederick. Ferdinand, now officially elected Holy Roman Emperor, sees this as treason. Catholic Spain, Ferdinand's ally and Europe's superpower, cannot allow Protestant rebels to succeed. This would threaten their vital supply routes to the Netherlands, so Spanish troops march toward Bohemia. In response, Protestant princes across Germany begin choosing sides. By 1620, battle lines have formed. On November 8th, outside Prague, at a place called White Mountain, Ferdinand's Catholic forces meet the Bohemian rebel army. The battle lasts barely an hour. 1,000 Protestant soldiers are slaughtered. The Bohemian revolt is crushed with brutal efficiency. Ferdinand's revenge is merciless. Rebel leaders are arrested and executed. Their severed heads are mounted on spikes across Prague as a warning. But instead of ending the conflict, White Mountain ignites it. Ferdinand's Catholic armies sweep through Protestant territories in western Germany, occupying the Rhineland, Westphalia, and the Palatinate. By 1623, Catholic forces control most of western Germany. Protestant princes in the north watch in terror as Catholic armies advance toward their borders. The war is expanding. In 1625, a new player enters the conflict. Christian IV, King of Denmark and Duke of Holstein, leads an army south into Germany. He claims he's defending Protestantism, but really he's protecting his own territories from Catholic encroachment. Leading Ferdinand's Catholic forces are 2 brilliant commanders, Count Tilly, a veteran general, and Albrecht von Wallenstein, a Protestant turned mercenary who commands an army of 20,000 men loyal only to him and his money. For 3 years, they systematically destroy the Danish army. By 1629, Denmark surrenders. Wallenstein's forces occupy the Baltic coast. Ferdinand, sensing total victory, makes a catastrophic mistake. He issues the Edict of Restitution, a decree that reverses 70 years of Protestant gains. Every Protestant church built since 1555 must be returned to Catholic control. It's an inflammatory, uncompromising declaration that even moderate Catholics find extreme. The Protestant world reacts with fury, and from across the Baltic Sea, a new threat emerges. July 1630, King Gustavus Adolphus of Sweden lands in Germany with his army. He's a militant Protestant, a tactical genius, and he fears Catholic Habsburg control of the Baltic. Gustavus is also a military innovator. While most armies still use the cumbersome Spanish tercio system, massive squares of pikemen and musketeers, Gustavus deploys smaller, more mobile battalions with integrated artillery. His forces can maneuver faster, shoot more accurately, and hit harder than anything Europe has seen. And Gustavus arrives at the perfect moment. Ferdinand has just dismissed Wallenstein under pressure from nervous German princes who fear the mercenaries' growing power. Northern Germany is virtually undefended. Within a year, Gustavus has allied with several Protestant states and built an army of 40,000, but one city allies with him willingly, Magdeburg. In May 1631, Count Tilly's Catholic forces storm the city. What follows is one of the worst atrocities of the war. According to Magdeburg's mayor, the city is given over to murder, burning, plundering, torture, and beatings. Over 20,000 civilians are massacred, nearly the entire population. The city burns to ash. The sack of Magdeburg becomes powerful Protestant propaganda. Pamphlets circulate across Europe describing the horrors in graphic detail. The massacre fuels a cycle of revenge. Catholics will soon face brutal reprisals, including the notorious Swedish drink, where victims have their stomachs forcibly filled with filth until they burst. The 30 Years' War has become total war, and Gustavus Adolphus is coming for revenge. September 1631. Near the village of Breitenfeld, Gustavus faces Count Tilly with nearly 40,000 men on each side. It's one of the largest battles of the war. Tilly's cavalry charges the Swedish lines repeatedly, but is cut down by devastating musket fire. On the opposite flank, Catholic cavalry breaks through and routs the Saxon allies. But as Catholic forces pursue, a gap opens in their formation. Gustavus sees it instantly. His mobile battalions wheel around and smash into Tilly's exposed flank. The Catholic army disintegrates. 7,000 lie dead. Tilly's first major defeat, and a turning point in the war. The road to southern Germany lies open. By spring 1632, Swedish forces push deep into Catholic Bavaria. At the Battle of Rhein, Tilly tries to stop them. He fails. And the 73-year-old general is mortally wounded. Ferdinand, desperate, recalls Wallenstein to command. In November, Gustavus and Wallenstein clash at Lutzen. The battle begins in thick fog. In the chaos, Gustavus leads a cavalry charge, becomes separated from his men, and is killed. The Protestant cause has lost its champion. Without the Lion of the North, the Swedish army struggles. In 1634, they suffer a catastrophic defeat at Nördlingen, losing half their forces. But then in 1635, another power enters the game, France. Now here's where the 30 Years' War reveals its true nature. France is Catholic. Cardinal Richelieu, France's chief minister, is a cardinal of the Church. Yet he declares war on Catholic Spain and sends money and troops to support Protestant Sweden. Why? Because this war stopped being about religion years ago. France is surrounded by Habsburg territories, Spain to the south, the Holy Roman Empire to the east. Richelieu sees an opportunity to weaken his rivals. Religion is just the excuse. For 17 years, war has raged. Hundreds of German towns lie in ruins. Armies strip the countryside bare, living off plunder. Mercenary soldiers rampage through villages, taking everything. Famine becomes endemic. There are reports of cannibalism, of besieged soldiers eating their dead comrades, of women devouring their children. The war has become a self-perpetuating machine of destruction. French and Swedish forces batter Bavaria and Saxony for years. Commanders rise and fall. In 1641, Swedish commander Johan Barnaer dies of illness. In 1643, at the Battle of Rocroi, young French Duke Enghien crushes a Spanish army, securing France's northern border. That same year, Sweden invades Denmark to grab territory while peace talks begin in the German region of Westphalia. Yes, peace talks, but everyone wants to negotiate from a position of strength, so the fighting continues even as diplomats argue over terms. By 1648, all sides are exhausted. 30 years of war have devastated Germany. Modern estimates suggest between 5 and 8 million dead, most from famine and disease. Some regions have lost 2/3 of their population. In Germany alone, 20% of the population has perished. That's a higher percentage than Germany would lose in either world war. In May 1648, the last imperial army is destroyed at Zusmarshausen. Swedish forces march on Prague and, in a twist of fate, capture Jaroslav Borzita, one of the men thrown from the window 3 decades earlier. But the Swedes can't take the city. Both armies are starving, depleted, and spent. Then, in November, news arrives. Peace has been concluded. The Peace of Westphalia, signed after 5 years of negotiations, reshapes Europe. The Dutch Republic gains formal independence from Spain. Switzerland is recognized as independent. France receives Alsace. Sweden gains territories on the Baltic. Most importantly, the treaty establishes religious tolerance in Germany. Rulers can still determine their territory's official faith, but forced conversion is forbidden. Catholics and Protestants must coexist. The Holy Roman Empire survives, but it's been gutted. Real power now lies with individual German princes, not the emperor. The empire will limp on for another 150 years before Napoleon finally dissolves it in 1806. The 30 Years' War remains one of history's great cautionary tales. It began with Protestant nobles throwing 2 men from a window. It ended with 8 million dead and a continent in ruins. A local dispute over religious freedom escalated into a total war that consumed nearly all of Europe, driven by religious fanaticism, political ambition, and the brutal logic of early modern warfare. Historians often point to the Treaty of Westphalia as the birth of the modern international system, the first time European powers sat down as equals to negotiate a comprehensive peace. But the cost was almost unimaginable. Entire generations were wiped out. Cities that thrived in 1618 were abandoned ruins by 1648. The war's devastation would scar Germany for centuries. For 300 years after, Europeans remembered the 30 Years' War as proof of what happens when religious conflict, political ambition, and military force spiral out of control. It was a warning about the dangers of total war, a warning that tragically would not prevent the even greater catastrophes of the 20th century. The 2 men thrown from Prague Castle survived their fall. Europe would not be so lucky. If you found this deep dive into one of history's most devastating conflicts compelling, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss our next documentary. We'll be exploring more pivotal moments that shaped our world. What historical event should we cover next? Let us know in the comments below. Thanks for watching.